to set up tasks list and task lists and things like that. You can use whatever you want, but point being is that we have a checklist and we assign certain tasks to certain individuals. And you're right. So we have a list of tasks that have to be completed pre-closing, and then we have a list of tasks that have to be completed post-closing. And we essentially have a template set up, and each time we sign a new LOI, we dupe that template into a new for a new deal, and then it populates in our to-do list for the team. It assigns tasks automatically, and then we follow that template based on our timeline. So yeah, as far as where that list came from, I mean, when we started doing it, I mean, I asked our lawyer to send a list. I asked a couple of buddies to send me their lists. I, recalled a few things from memory from my past job. And you also learn as you do those, I guess, back to back, you also learn things. And then so this list, it's been increasing, or like it's been growing, and then it's actually been contracting because we found out that certain tasks are actually unnecessary and certain things are just very low value add. But yes, I think you should have a structure in place, because otherwise you'll inevitably forget. I would also highly recommend, it's sort of technical, but I would highly recommend being able to take notes next to each task. So not just having a sort of check mark done, but having some sort of process of where you're able to take notes, because you'll want to come back and take a look at those tasks later on and see what was done. And I would do the same, for example, by the way, for the diligence list. So we use the same process for diligence lists. And so being able to take notes and then come back, because inevitably you'll forget, and then inevitably you'll have questions about what you've done pre-closing.
Yeah, I think doing this is one of those areas where if you do multiple deals, you really do get a lot better, because you snub your toe a bunch of times on stuff that you failed to integrate properly.
Yeah.
One thing we learned, back to your point about financial infrastructure, was that payment processing accounts, credit card processing accounts, are typically personally guaranteed by the owner, which means they do not transfer. Which means they have to be underwritten typically. So you can't just like open a payment. I mean, Stripe is sometimes a little different, but a lot of traditional payment processors will not open a credit card processing account like on the phone in real time. So the first business we bought, the seller was like piping me money for a month because we weren't set up to process credit card transactions at close.
Well, this all actually gets worse when you start to enlist foreign accounts as well. So we bought a software company in the UK, and it took us almost 2 months to get access to our money. And so all that kind of stuff happens as well. But so let's say I'm a new acquirer, and this is my first time to get a list. It sounds like, how do I put together kind of that, oh my God, I don't want to screw this up list of stuff? Go ask. It sounds like, Dimitri, you went and asked everybody you knew.
Yep.
I assume in the books there's some starter lists as well, Brent Bashore's book and stuff like that. I can't remember it specifically, but I think it might have had a list in there. Those are places, the HBR book about acquisitions. Is that the strategy?
Yeah, I think so. You can also go on Search Funder, and there are a few sort of diligence lists floating around and integration lists floating around. I think it's a good starting point. I would caveat, though, you would have to personalize that list for a given industry, because there are a lot of nuances for specific industries. And then I think once you start as a generic list, I mean, assuming most people are looking to make one acquisition, they're not looking to roll up an industry, because the two are obviously very different. But as you're working through your first acquisition or your only acquisition, I think you'll get smarter along the way, and you'll have questions pop in your head. And so you need to start somewhere. And I would also recommend collecting a few different lists.